Well, welcome back to the next edition of the Stories About the Washington School. You're going to be hearing more memories of teachers and students that were a part of the Washington School once upon a time.
I have many fond memories of Washington Elementary School. My grandfather's name was Ole Hansen, and he was janitor at Washington Elementary all the 6 years that I attended, and I started in 1938. We lived in a close proximity to it, and we of course walked to school back and forth every day. And I had a few special privileges, being my grandfather was the janitor there. And I was a little dawdler. My mother called me that when I left for school. I stopped to see the birds and the flowers and visit with anybody I saw. So consequently, it would be almost time for the tardy bell to ring, and I would see my grandfather standing out on the top step, holding on to his pocket watch, looking at it, looking for me, and spying me coming and saying, "Ruti, hurry." He was a Norwegian immigrant and spoke English well, but that's the way he said my name. So I would pick up the pace, run across the street, up the steps, in the door, the bell would ring. So consequently, I was never tardy.
The school has a lot of memories. Miss Nicholson, Evelyn Nicholson, was the principal for many, many years when I went to school there. And I got to know her quite well. I met her really well the time that I was sliding down the banister going down into the boys' bathroom. I thought it was really a neat thing to do, and I thought, well, I'll just slide down there once and see how it goes. There she was, and she says, "I'll see you in my room right now." And I found out that there was a purpose for a maple ruler right then. She gave me a couple swats with the maple ruler, and then I got kind of scared because I thought, she's going to tell my dad, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. But never heard any more about it, and I always wondered, well, what did she think of me? Was I a troublemaker, or wasn't I, or what did she think? And many, many years later, when I was ready to get married, she found out I was engaged to get married, and she asked my dad if he thought that I would invite her to the wedding. I did, and kind of a long memory that she would remember who I was, but I suppose not everybody slid down the banister. My dad was Alvin Wilkie, and he was the janitor for about 100 years at Washington School. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 25 years or so. One of the things that he enjoyed doing at Washington School, I know, was being Santa Claus for the Christmas program. And any of you that might have gone to Washington School know that he was Santa for many, many years. And the problem with that was that every kid in the school knew who Santa Claus was. And so it kind of bothered him. The kids would come up and say, "Well, you going to be Santa Claus this year?" And he'd say, "No, not this year." And one year he talked to Jim Evans, the grocer legislator from town, and Jim decided that he would be Santa Claus that year. So he got the suit and he dressed up, and of course the program went on, and all the kids thought that here comes my dad again as Santa Claus. But didn't happen. Here came Jim Evans, and the kids had no clue who it was. They were trying to figure out who that was, and as far as I know, Jim never told them who he was, and he enjoyed that for years. I know many, many years later I saw Jim, and we mentioned it, and it was an enjoyable time for both of them. During World War II, with the war going on, the students at Washington School were quite involved with the activities. We would go down and watch trains go down through. The Northern Pacific was the railroad name at that time, and we'd see all the equipment going east and west to the different war zones, and that was a great interest to the students. We also had days at school where they sold stamps, savings stamps and defense stamps that we would paste into books and eventually buy bonds, savings bonds. And we also had tinfoil drives where we went out and went along the streets and the highways, and we picked up all the gum wrappers we could find. And we peeled that little aluminum coating off the gum wrappers, and put them into little balls, and when we had a ball big as a baseball, we would turn them in, and they'd be melted down and made into airplanes and so forth for the war effort.
Well, one of the memories that I recalled was actually when I was in kindergarten, and I had Mrs. Mankey. She was, the kindergarten teacher there, and we must have read, like the gingerbread book where he runs away. And I remember we made gingerbread men, and when we got up from nap time, they were all gone. And we had to search, like she left like gumdrops and like pieces of them throughout the school, and we like went all the way through the school looking for them, just like in the book. And that's something that I remember that, even to this day, it's really cool. I remember in 4th grade, we did experiment with rats, and we had 2 white rats, and we fed one of them sugar water and one of them milk, and measured their tails and how much they weighed. I had Mr. Motts, and he was just trying to show us, like pop isn't good for you, and drinking lots of sugary juices isn't good for you, and that's another thing I remember.
I worked at Washington School at 6th grade, and I have lots of good memories of 6th grade. We did a lot together as a whole wide school, and one of the things we do is in the spring, the 6th graders always took on the staff in a game of baseball. And so that was usually, luckily the teachers always won, but it was, it was a big challenge for the kids, and that was, those are some fond memories of that too.
Yeah. I was also thinking about the kids over there. At that time, there wasn't a community activities. So what the school did is they would have like a 5th or a 6th grade team. And then they would play all the other elementaries, and we were the Washington Warriors. And oh boy, they would get pumped up to play the other teams because there's always a trophy at the end of the season. And yeah, the kids really enjoyed that, just the competition. And now it's more all school, I believe it is, so, but that was fun. The kids had t-shirts and everything to show their team and everything, so that was fun.
Many of the people that went to Washington School get together and we talk about the days at Washington School. One of the things that Lois Alderson has reminded me of many times at different reunions is her favorite memory of Washington School. For reading class, they had a row of little red chairs that we all sat in and did our reading lessons. And I'm sure many of you would have familiar memories just like that, but those little red chairs have a memory in our hearts. When we went to school there was no new addition, like on the south side of the school. That wasn't there, and it was basically go in and go to the rooms, and you spent your time in the room. If you're in 1st grade, you spent a lot of time in the room except for recess, and that was just about it. So it was quite a school. The kids that go to school there really enjoyed it. Playing in that low-ceiling gym down in the basement is an experience in itself. How anybody could play basketball after being in that room, I'll never know, because you had to keep your shots level.
Some of the best memories. It was a great school.